My last deep dive video did so well, and it was primarily because of my unique editing skill set and mostly due to the fact that I introduced this lovely individual who continued to berate and abuse people throughout the whole entire video. Sup, scrub? Look, you're here to help me, and if I feel at any point you're not doing that, I will return you back to my subconscious. Nah, I'm here because you're lonely. Yo, Pierre, you wanna come out here? Nani? I've seen a lot of those World War III memes and I think they're adorable. Except this is the red flag that's usually flown when times of war are about to happen. This is the most prominent mosque in Iran and the red flag is being flown over it. No, literally, if you're trying your best to hold on to whatever semblance of sanity you have remaining based on the trajectory of our lifespan, as it is being dictated by our commander-in-chief since he is trying to start World War III, then you are not alone. Well, let's say, for example, you want to know everything that's going on, but you don't have the resources to kind of look up all this information and vet it yourself. Well, my tragic half has got you covered, and between the combination of me and him both, we plan on getting you all caught up and up to speed on what's happening in Iran and what's going to bring about World War III. So here are 5 things you should know about World War III. Who the f is Qassem Soleimani? Well, the answer to that really depends on what side you're on and what time you were on that side. His information was pivotal. It helped our American soldiers navigate their way through Iraq since Qassem Soleimani had already defeated Iraq once in a war, so he was already innately aware of everything that could go wrong or happen in Iraq. He gave American soldiers intel on the Taliban right after the 9/11 attacks, which helped them navigate Taliban territory to scout out areas for invasion purposes. Qassem Soleimani, to some extent, is an American hero. It just depends on what side you're on and at what time you were on that side. But in 1979, he experienced his first taste of power when he joined a protest that helped bring down the Shah government, and this was the start of his infatuation with power. During the 1980s to the late 88s, he joined a special ops army called the IRG, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. This guard was responsible for helping Iran win major wars all throughout the region. In 1998, he became the hero he is today. His legacy grew significantly. Qassem Soleimani was never going to die peacefully. He was a major target on hundreds of countries' bingo lists and was wanted throughout the region, dead or alive. And during this time, he was considered to be untouchable, with a 95% approval rating within the military and an 83% approval rating that still exists today in Iran. In 1994, he was responsible for a bombing in Buenos Aires. He was also responsible for a tour bus in Israel being blown up in 2012. He's also responsible for using the IEDs that were designed to destroy American tanks and pierce through their armor. He is also responsible for hundreds of proxy wars going on in the area. And last but not least, he's also responsible for sending Palestinian rebels weapons via armored ships. Everything the Iran government wanted was perpetrated by this individual and his special ops team. They were notorious for getting done. But what I'm trying to get at is the dedication that people had to him. By taking him out, we didn't leave a vacuum. We left a group of angry people to fill the void. They are prepared to fight for this individual, and moreover, they're ready to die for this individual. Is that something that Americans can say about our leaders? The short answer is yes. The long answer is no. And just for the record, the orange one has already been impeached. That was a process that took place in 2019. And as far as his removal, that is something that will take place in the Senate. In order for us to remove the president in the Senate, we have to get the articles of impeachment moved from the House to the Senate, where the Senate will vote on the removal. The moment the Senate decides to remove anyone from political office that has been voted into office, that is official. It is effective immediately. There is no rapport or anything that says he can't be removed during war times. You look dumb. For the record, there's only been 3 impeached presidents, 1 official cabinet member removed, 1 senator removed, and 15 judges that have been removed from office. The reason why it's so unlikely that Trump will be removed from office is because of this Franklin Turtle looking ass motherfucker over here. On December 29, 2019, the United States sanctioned a military airstrike. These airstrikes were basically part of the Hellfire missile barrage. The USA claims that this mobilizing group was being mobilized to basically perform a terrorist attack on US facility. They said the same thing about this, but reports coming in and out of the state of affairs in that region basically said that that wasn't true. January 3rd, 2020, Qassem Soleimani's convoy that was traveling outside of Baghdad towards the airport was attacked, basically leading to the Iraqi people and a whole bunch of Iranian sympathizers within the area heading to the US embassy to flat out burn that motherfucker to the ground. The supreme leader of Iran swore revenge on America, and when he said he was swearing revenge on America, it wasn't people like me and you know, the National Black Caucus. He was referring directly to the White House leaders and the United States leaders. What followed next was pretty much the UK said this is not our cup of tea dealing with Iran, and you know, Brexit. France and all of them good people are having this thing called an economic spiral because of our tariff war going on with China. Oh, and don't think Canada's out here trying to help us, because they're basically building a border to prevent all the White Walkers from heading up north when they start targeting cities in prominent areas in America, because you know, Iran has nuclear capability. But not even the USA was prepared for this attack. Surprising no one, the Trump administration fumbled the execution on this whole entire assassination. Because the administration refuses to plan accordingly, it forces people like me to believe statements like this aren't true.
And you know, I tell this all the time, the word unpredictable. We have to be unpredictable, folks.
President Sweet and Sour is the king of contradictions. Exhibit A.
Our president will start a war with Iran.
He projects and deflects, and when presented with facts, he runs to his favorite catchphrase.
Fake news.
To me, it's very simple why he did this. To remove this layer of weakness that is being perceived around him and his party for the sham of a job that they're doing in the Senate by openly admitting that they won't honor their oath that they took to the office and to us to honor our Constitution and remove the president if they find articles of impeachment to be valid. During the Watergate trial, Nixon did something similar. Unfortunately for the Orange Power Ranger, he's more closely related to Nixon than he is Obama, and that's not something favorable for him even as a Republican. Bush and Cheney said there were weapons of mass destruction. Nixon and Spiro both said Vietnam was going to be the end of us if we didn't do something. And now here we have Trump and Pence saying similar lies. Pence tweeted this out in an official capacity, basically saying Qassem Soleimani had something to do with the 9/11 attacks. But based on the information I've provided you thus far, that is clearly a lie. This is part of the cycle. It is almost a cog in the machine to them. Lying and distracting is something they do, and they do it well. The government loses 1,475 kids? No problem. Start a beef with North Korea. Lost control of the House? Start complaining about Colin Kaepernick and the NFL protests. I'm about to get impeached, so I'm going to start World War III. The Trump administration and Trump himself believe that as long as the news media cycle is being distracted by his current affairs, that they won't be able to dig up and fact check his past occurrences. And as long as his current move is his strongest move, he doesn't worry about the last one. And I have to say that this tactic is working, because legitimately it's impossible for you to keep up with every single f***ed up thing that Trump has done thus far. Ain't no goddamn war coming. The war is already here. Since the late 90s, the American government and our American military has basically perpetuated a constant state of war. There are literally kids who have grown up in this generation who have never seen a day without war. It is basically part of our industrial complex. It is important for us to know that our military basically ceases to exist if there's no conflict. Our military budget is bloated. Meanwhile, our basic quality of life, such as healthcare, education, and access to, clean water these days, is almost become something worth not mentioning in our society. And if you are ever going to criticize the military, you have to be prepared to be labeled as unpatriotic, a terrorist, or dare I say un-American, because you were able to think critically and ask one simple question.
All my niggas tell me.
For all the rhetoric and bullshit I receive about not supporting the military and this whole idea of war first, well, that, because Muhammad Ali was blacklisted and had all of his titles stripped from him for saying,
Conscience won't let me go shoot my brother or some darker people some poor, hungry people in the mud for big, powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger.
And don't get me wrong is wrong, but I'm able to call wrong on both sides of the ball. We are basically criticizing Iran for their tactics and the handling of certain situations when they kill their kids and civilians. We also kill our kids and civilians, and we also kill civilians from other countries who come to this country looking for help. There have been 6 kids who have died under our care. Don't even get me started with the hate crimes that you're talking about that happen in Iran. What about the hate crimes that are happening right here in America? Since the 2016 election, we've seen an exponential growth in hate crimes all throughout America, covering all types of race, religions, and walks of life. Literally, we've seen the greatest spike in hate since after the 9/11 attacks, when Middle Easterns were the main target of all hate crimes. We have 2 white nationalists functioning in our government at the highest levels, being Stephen Miller and Stephen King, who have both proclaimed to be white nationalists and are okay with being labeled white nationalists, working within our government. And let's not sit here and pretend that Qassem Soleimani was such a bad guy, when we literally have this guy coming back to America after being detained and stopped for war crimes that he's committed, that his own unit and commanding officers admitted seeing him do. He has legitimately dismembered people and kept their body parts as souvenirs. I don't know what your scale of being bad is, but if we're sitting here giving this asshole a medal and a good welcome home, then who are we to judge Qassem Soleimani? At one point in time, when we captured Nazi soldiers and we asked them during interviews why they eradicated so many Jews, the simple response that all of them seemed to give without hesitation was, I was just following orders. And all that I'm just following orders doesn't fly for American soldiers, because guess what? You've been given the Constitution, which also gives you the right to deny or decline to do any order that has been given to you. Obviously, you might have to suffer some consequences based on the situation you're in, but guess what? You are also the idiot who signed the contract stating that you were okay with committing any type of act that the government asked you to do. And overall, my point being, you not knowing your rights is still your problem and a greater issue of the problem that is being facilitated within our country. As Americans, we love talking about accountability. Well, here's an opportunity for all of us to be accountable for our actions. But the fact is, the government has figured out a way to use poverty as a driving force for their economy. Because you're broke and poor, you have to get your money and handouts from the government in the exchange of military service. So basically, they have militarized poverty. Poor people are being used to fund fat cat wars. These people are being sacrificed for the sake of this man's mistakes. Tell me, how is that patriotic?
That's great, it starts with
The amount of greed in life trumps, ironically, death and destruction that is afforded to us. So this temptation of World War III will just be that, a laughable meme, a gross negligence in our sense of humor, a nihilist way of handling the depression and the crippling anxiety of not knowing if we're going to wake up tomorrow. It is all a temptation we won't have to worry about until it's not. You say something nice.